Good afternoon and welcome to the Old Timer Tavern. My name is Rob, aka Lantern Noir. I am one of two hosts, and joining me, as is typically the week, is
Graybeard Tavern.
We usually leave a few more moments before we push the live button, but we felt it necessary to get out here ASAP because obviously the crowd demanded it. As a massive thank you to Enceladus, who is a bit of a player at my table. We've got a date coming up soon. Has brought just an amazing collection of people over here. So thank you for coming on in. Stream descended. I'll be back tomorrow. You know, you keep doing what you're doing. If you are not, for the two of you who were here before Jesse got here, you have got to give her a follow. She is an amazing human being. Not just an amazing gamer, but an amazing human being. I had her speak to some students of mine once, and pretty much they were floored at all the things you can do in your life before you're 40. So I will never miss a chance to sing the praises of this individual. So there's that. So welcome to everybody who came in. If you're listening on the podcast, bear with me just a second here as I scroll back up, and I thank Tacticus and JC and Guppy and Ear, of course, always present. And thank you so much for the bits, Ear. It's great to have you here at this incredibly late hour. And the coward, you don't have to be a coward at the table. That is why we have Liquid Courage. And the EV, yep, got that right, EV, and Merlin and Zachary, Polymorph, thank you for coming by. Orange Boy, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you at the table. And I got everybody caught up. And this stuff, okay, so I'm very short. Don't drink. A backup plan, coffee.
Is that chocolate milk?
Is that chocolate milk?
No. Yeah.
I used to do moth story hours before everything went into, like, you can't go out in public. And they were always at places with a liquor license. And I always, I need a Whiskey Rocks. And she's like, okay. Then she starts rattling off brands. And I'm like, no, I just need Liquid Courage in a glass with ice.
Top shelf. Now.
That's it. That's all I need. She's like, okay, but do you, I'm like, no. I need Liquid Courage in a glass with ice.
This is trademark patented tavern tap water drawn from the well out back. That's what I have. It may have some Kahlua and Bailey's and a little bourbon in there, but it's the sludge from we get in the well. So
it is what it is. And by the way, before we get into things proper, one last bit of Twitch housekeeping. Bright, Orange, Zach, and Admiral, thank you for the follows and becoming part of our little community here. Doing Dry January, if you live in the United States, you crazy for that. We actually had our principal at our staff meeting as he rattled off the end of meeting issues. He's like, well, we got through this, and whoever came up with Dry January can go to hell. So that is what that is. So when we're here, or when you did not need to resubscribe, thank you for that. We appreciate it, and we're so glad you hung out with us today. Thanks for coming in as we talk D&D. Here at the Happy Hour at the Old Timer Tavern, which is interesting because someone just tweeted out earlier this week that they were disappointed by how many podcasts and streams there were featuring just straight white men sitting around talking. And so here at the Old Timer Tavern, you will notice there are two straight white men talking. But we like to think that we like to model what happens as you grow gracefully old into gaming and can look back on the generation and go, well, here are a couple things we learned and model good behavior for the other old farts who still think D&D is a boys game. So that's usually where we try to go. As a kind of an update, how has your week been? Let's talk about our week in gaming before we get into our topic of the week.
Oh, well, I was kicking back on Sunday, and I did my morning stream, 10 to 12 of Wildermyth on my channel, Graybeard's Tavern, and then I play with an amazing group that doesn't stream the game, but Call of Cthulhu from noon to like 3, and then somebody called me up as an alternative to play Sunday night 7 to 10 on his channel. So yeah, I played a lot on on Sunday. Saturday night, I run my game with, I affectionately call them grognards. They are not actual grognards, but they are dear to my heart, and they are old farts like me. And so that was my Saturday night game. And now I'm back raring to go here to expound about some D&D.
Yeah, that's sounds like a week. We had our Convergence game last week, which has been clipping along. They finally got to meet the NPC that one of the Kickstarter backers designed.
Oh,
so we finally got to the big reveal. They've gotten into a movie theater in the back of a shopping mall that a bunch of gnolls have moved into and have laid claim to. Which has been a lot of fun getting them to that point in a way that has been really challenging to get for me to learn the table, because it's a table that I'm not used to with some of the best players.
Well, and then too, you've got a different thing going on because you've got all this real world stuff with all this D&D goodness, and it mashed together. It's got to be something you got to keep an eye on, keep track of. And I imagine that, puts an extra spin on things. Not only that, but you're running the show and trying to produce whilst DMing. Oh man, too much.
Which the upside to it, and I'm just gonna sing the praises of my players in both my groups a little bit longer, is that they are great players that we can have like legit, I think, very entertaining evenings of just role playing, which is a lot of the fun, where we can just sit down, I can throw a topic out there, the characters all have stuff they want to get through and discuss, and it's a legitimately good time. In fact, we've had like 2 sessions now of the Convergence with no combat. Where it's just been role play. And I know the week before, the last one we had for Dragon Heist was all role play and investigation.
Yeah. Well, and the tweet I was just talking about before we jumped on about gatekeeping. Yeah, it fits into that so perfectly, because the individual who was griping was saying they just want to play Tea Party and dress up. They don't want to slay dragons anymore. And I'm like, you are missing the freaking point. Play first person shooters, Vermintide or something. Go blast stuff and
now,
if that's your
I'm going to push back. I'm going to say, no, if he wants to, or she wants to get together and put a dragon mini on the board and put minis around it and roll dice using D&D rules, and everyone at that table is having fun.
I was not complaining. I was just saying that's where, if that's where it takes you, or if that's what you want to do, go for it. Don't what you're saying? Don't yuck my yums.
We do not yuck yums. There are things we've taught our children. We do not yuck other people's yums. You can't force anyone to play with you. And if you're playing make believe, have a way to communicate you're done making believe. We won't discuss how I came to understand that those were important rules to have for the house. Although,
words to live by.
Yeah, I will say it's something I really do think should be in our health curriculum, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. And then that was okay. I thought that was nope. It was Ancilosaurus mentioned in chat the RP parts of our game. I'm just going to put this out there. The woman who wrote the music I use for like a lot of our theme music just is putting out a single now called Magic, and it's Our Love Is Like Magic. And I have to figure out where to find someone that she can hire as an animator to make the music video with Ember and Mir as the main characters dancing about to that song.
That's awesome.
I don't know how that works, because my understanding is like animation's like $1,000 a second.
Yeah, I was going to say talk to talk to Indoor. He had the opening credits for Four Keeps done.
I talked to Danae Keener of DanaeKeener.com, the artist who did our logo down below right there. Her name is Danae Keener. You can find her at DanaeKeener.com about that very topic. And Danae Keener of DanaeKeener.com mentioned it was like a 2-year project to get that put together, and it went through like 15 artists.
Wow! I see. I didn't even know that part. That's amazing.
Oh, so when you say ballpark for a 60-second intro animation, you're like, it's insanely crazy. And she said, yes. I said, okay, sweet. Dice. Okay, Admiral, you are going to have to check back with us in 2 weeks because I think we are going to officially pin that to our topics for coming games or coming happy hours. I would love a chance to go through dice versus no dice. I'm not overly familiar with Amber. I've never played in a game of it. And Unstable Deuce, welcome to the family. We're glad to have you here. But I'm familiar with it, and I've had nights where we've never touched dice. Yeah. So that would be a really interesting conversation to have and get into as we go. And then back to the week at recap. You were here with the Dragon Heist game, which was,
I know,
God, so much fun. and massive props to the 5th player at the table, Polymorph, who's in chat right now, who was the master of the puns.
It was really good.
It was nonstop. It was hijinks. It was hilarity. It was one of those nights where I'm so glad I stream my games because it's fun to have so many people at the table.
Right.
That it's a good time.
Yeah, and I think it was good because I think we were all able to keep an eye on chat pretty well. And so it was a group think and group effort. So I think peeps did really well. It was the first time I had played with any of them really. So it was good. And like I said at the end, it's a good game when nobody wants to sign off the Zoom call. Everybody's just kind of hanging out. And
it was well, I drove off while you and Malik were still hanging out in the parking lot.
Yep, exactly.
Which I've seen happen at other game get-togethers.
Yep.
And then the only other thing I want to add on to the week recap is that I did my first pub night Saturday night this past week, and it's still in my VOD for here on Twitch. Nothing caught fire. I did an hour and 45 minutes solo set, playing Irish drinking tunes, and I got through the night.
Wow!
And I'm kind of like I've been bit. I might have to do a few more of those. I don't know when and where, given life.
Yeah.
But it was fun. So hopefully I'll do that again.
Yep. That's not anywhere near my wheelhouse. Nope. Could not. It would be, maybe, there's no way. There's no way. I do not have the pipes for it.
Well, you'd be surprised what you can do with a little bit of liquid courage.
I forgot to throw ice in mine, and so it's currently still too hot to even touch. I'm like, oh, so
dope.
Exactly.
So the topic of the week, which makes sense too, that we are on episode 42. So this is where we provide you the answer to the ultimate question of the universe. Is the Matt Mercer effect. And I think it's interesting because this has there are 2 layers to this. There's the layer that you feel at a traditional game table, and then there's the layer of it you feel as a streamer or as a participant in a streamed game.
Yeah.
Do you want to tackle some definition of terms?
So, the Matt Mercer effect generally is known as the, people think that's what D&D is. Critical Role has set a bar that people, when they start playing D&D, that's what they shoot for, and it can be really, off-putting, or people can feel like they're doing it wrong, or such. And really, there is no wrong way to do D&D. Well, okay, there are some wrong ways to do D&D, but but generally speaking, if everyone has a good time, everyone's entertained, and they come back next week, you're doing it right.
And I think, and that kind of gets into that expectations. I've often told my students, Zay Craze like nailed it. I'm glad I did D&D before seeing other people doing it. Yeah, I think if younger me had seen Critical Role on TV, I don't know if younger me would have been so anxious to get into doing it. And that just gets to that idea of, or as I often tell students, most conflict in relationships comes from misaligned expectations. You and your dad fight so much because he expects this, that, and the other thing, and you don't do those things. So either you need to start doing them or he has to change his expectations. And that's where the conflict comes from. You expected to be able to Snapchat with other girls. Your girlfriend expected you to stop Snapchatting with other girls. There's going to be conflict. And so I feel like with Dungeons and Dragons games, with there being this phenomenon, people are expecting, come to a D&D, you say, oh, we're going to play D&D. They say, oh, that's like Critical Role. And you go, well, yes. And I get really edgy because I've had students say, oh, I think I've seen that. That's that Critical Role thing. And I go, sort of. Because you get that expectation that you're going to be at those particular levels.
Yeah. And that's where you've got to realize those are all professional, voice actors who know each other, who'd been playing for years together before they started a show, so it's, I'm sure Matt had, a decade or more under his belt as a DM before they ever filmed an episode, so yeah. Critical Role is D&D, but not all D&D is Critical Role.
Well, and that gets into things too, where when it comes to finding people that want it, when you're looking for players, or you're inviting family to become involved, or some friends, you bump into that. Well, I could never do that. That idea that I can't do D&D. D&D is too hard. I can't do. Oh, I would do D&D, like the one I've heard a lot. I would do D. I don't think I could do the voices. So I shouldn't.
I don't have any of the costumes. Yeah, you don't need a costume.
Yeah, I mean, nope, don't finish that thought.
Yep. Yeah.
There was something in there about birthday suits, and I thought I should stop myself.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, probably.
Sweet, we got it. Okay, good.
We're good.
Well, if everybody else got it, that's up to you. But as long as we got the joke, we're moving on. Watching it played professionally helped the rules and mechanics click. Okay, as long as they actually get the rules right. One of the funny things, in a second here, is with Will Wheaton's tabletop. There are like whole Reddit threads of all the rules he gets wrong, to the point where you should never watch an episode of Tabletop to learn how to play the game. You watch Tabletop to watch people have fun playing a game. But there was even one episode of Tabletop where they did Fortune and Glory. And he opens with a video that says, what you're about to see is not the game Fortune and Glory. It is a game we chose to play based loosely on Fortune and Glory, which we thought was Fortune and Glory at the time. It turns out we made so many mistakes with the rules that we can't solve them in post-production. And I'm like, props to him for being out in front of that Reddit thread
Right. The nerd rage. So yeah, we watch tabletop to have Felicia Day say things like tentacle party. You know, that's what it's about. What do we got?
Oh, just the people who want to make characters that aren't fun to interact with. That's a whole different level of challenge to talk about. And we've touched on it previously with some other episodes of ways to kind of help mitigate that or help address it early in the game. The voice is part of the genesis for me for wanting to kick this around with you today.
Mm-hmm.
So last week's Convergence had the NPCs finally meeting a major character, or sorry, the PCs meeting a major NPC. And it was not an NPC I had developed deeply early. Like I've been working on.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a voice for her. And I've tried, as I've done more streaming games, to work on different accents. And I remember when I first introduced Arabelle into my Curse of Strahd game, I did such a bad Vistani accent that they couldn't tell what I would like. I literally got asked. Chat was harassing me. My chat was giving me a hard time.
I remember you being like befuddled the next talk show we had about it.
Was
you were
I
like, oh,
French? Was I German? Was she Romanian? And like I dedicated like a week to practicing a Vistani Roma accent. And so I felt like I was making some good progress in that front. But when I was prepping for this game, I was like, crap, I don't know what voice to give this woman. You know, she's kind of an important NPC. I want it to be very clear when I'm describing the action as Rob or Lantern Noir, that they know it's the DM talking versus her speech. But what voice do I give her?
Right.
And then it was like, well, do I have to give her a voice? Do I have to have an accent for her? I mean, Handsome Dan has an accent because polymorph. I usually kind of like inflect up and down just to kind of make it clear when I'm one versus the other. But I'm not a voice actor. I got a couple I can go to, and as long as I don't use it too often in a campaign, I can get away with it. But they got me thinking, though, like, to what extent do I need to do that at the table to maintain that immersion and engagement for players and or, as a streamer, chat and my viewers?
Yeah, so a tool for me is I have a long commute. And so in my long commute, you know, I work on voices and whatnot. The hard part for me is that I can only do a voice if I'm in the headspace. So like if someone were to suddenly say to me, you know, do Kronk, I'd be like, hold on. I got to get in Kronk's head, and then be like, Kronk Gorblast, you know, and you know you can emote it once you're in the head, but before that,
now that is the sort of thing that I find if I have a need to be speaking in a particular way, I can, how you say, find it quickly.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things that's so good about my Wilder Myth stream is, well, the text is bad for my dyslexia, but having all these characters interact and wanting to give them each, you know, a different voice or different intonation and stuff, it's really good for practicing for that kind of thing. So those of you budding GMs out there, feel free to play a game with a lot of dialogue and try to, if nothing else, not even do it out loud, but in your head, try to give them different intonation and different voices.
Yeah, and I didn't shout you out when everyone came in. If you haven't, take a moment right now, click on Graybeard Tavern, and throw him a follow. Sunday mornings are the best place to hang out on his stream when he's doing this stuff. He is a great dude, and you'll have a lot of fun as you drink your coffee.
And I have all my toys.
Oh, yes.
You know.
Yes, he's like a prop comic.
Yes. But, so there's one thing that's from the Mercer effect, and also too, one of the things that has also a Mercer effect is a lot of the terminology and words and ways people communicate about role play games are coming from the Critical Role experience. So like the rule of cool, almost everyone thinks that's a Matt Mercer thing. That wasn't around before Matt Mercer. But
I have some lawyers want to talk to him about that.
Right. Well, and he doesn't claim it either, but it's one of those things that, people, that's where a lot of their standard comes from. And hence that's what they think, they're like, ooh, how cutting edge.
Although, again, to be fair to Critical Role at all, for a lot of gamers, we talked about this kind of at the top end where we sort of like hit on the gatekeeping that can happen with gaming. A lot of people came into D&D with the idea of if it's not in the rules, you can't do it. And if the rules exist for it, you have to follow the rules.
Right.
So the idea of, how fast can the monk get to the top of the mausoleum? Well, there are climbing rules and jumping rules, and how high is it, and what's her con, what's her strength, what's her dex. If she makes an acrobatics check, she can do. It's like, and I went, yeah, that's your move action. Why? Because rule of cool, you're there. Like totally, the monk does like this running leapy thingy and bounces off all the little crenellations, and now she's face to face with the white. Why? Because I wanted her to fight the white, and I didn't want to spend 45 minutes going through the rule book to figure out how to get her up there with it.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing where, for some people, it wasn't until they kept hearing from people. So I know D&D. I watched Critical Role, and I watched all these other games, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. They're like, oh, you got that from there. I'm like, well, no. It's a thing that I've done at my table for a while, partially because I get bored looking up rules. I ain't got time for that. Yeah,
the playing over on Indoor Adventures was really big because he is theater of the mind in a big way, and I can remember over the decades, there were times where we'd play with miniatures, and then we would try to not play with miniatures, and like, how do we ever do the opposite? And every time we switched, we would switch back and be like all out of sorts because we're like, how do you play without miniatures? So it's read the table. I have had great games and great streams. I was on Sir Lucian Gaming for a while, and he was really about Roll20 and maps with lighting and line of sight. And that group was very much, hex, here's I'm moving my boxes, and oh, what can I see? And step around the corner, and suddenly there's a giant spider that we couldn't see because he had done all the mapping and everything all cool and stuff. Again, he's a great example of someone who doesn't do voices, not at all, but you understand because he'll say things like, she says to you in her very Vastani accent, blah, 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 whatever the line is. And then it leaves it to your mind to come up with, my Vastani accent sounds like Boris and Natasha from Bullwinkle, you just leaves it to your head, kind of Lovecraftian, never show the monster, just always in the shadows, always out there. So your own mind comes up with what the scary parts are.
Well, and that gets just to tangent that briefly. I wish there were better, easier to use tools, because I do feel like both the tabletop gamer in me and the streamer in me, the two DMs that are sitting here, would like more easy to use tools to create those cool moments.
Yeah.
I thought Tailspire was going to be it, which is the digital version of Dwarf Forge miniatures.
Yeah.
Where you drop all the pieces in. It's like, oh, look, here's a room that they're going to wander through.
Yep.
And it doesn't quite, you can't really limit player view that way.
Right.
It's very clunky on that. At least it was last time I was in it and playing with it. But those are the kinds of things that are really neat to add, that it feels like there is that expectation that you're doing something to support that. I had somebody come by. I usually just use Jamboard.
Right.
And then I just draw on it. And I actually had someone pop in, and we're setting up a combat. All they said in chat was, "Nice map, dude." And then they left, I presume. They didn't say another word. And it was weird, though, how hard it hit me.
Yeah.
Because I've always taken a little pride in, like, being old school. Like, we're breaking out graph paper, and we're drawing a 40 by 40 room. There's a door 10 feet down here and 5 feet over there. And the hallway extends. It's like, it's like, I kind of like my old school feel. But then I'm like, but there's that expectation,
right,
that you're doing certain things at a slightly higher level, which can be kind of like, yeah, I agree, Arwen, it was a little on the rude side, but then it's like, well, on the other hand, it did make me kind of stop and go, okay, what can I do within my realm of control to kick it up a notch?
Right. Yeah, it's really strange because, again, whereas your DM, because you only got so many hours in a week before a session or multiple sessions,
or only so much alcohol in the house.
Yeah, and here's a great example. I know that my Saturday night game is going to be in this valley for a few weeks and a few sessions, right? And so I made a map for it because it's going to be important. And I spent 4 hours on it and then forgot to hit the save button, and vammo, 4 hours of work were gone. And
I love you, dude, but that's a little on you, you know, right?
Oh, yes, because there's a big yellow disc button down in the thing, like save your work, Graybeard. And I totally didn't do it. So then
Jesus
in
saves,
the morning,
so should you.
Exactly. So I had to redo the map because then I was on crunch time because now it's Saturday and we're going to play at 5 o'clock, you know? So yeah, tough. But if you expect Dwarven Forge every session, you're delusional.
On the other hand, I may or may not have bought back at Christmas 2020.
Yeah.
Enough Dwarven Forge knockoffs so that I can kind of create any dungeon room at my dining room table.
Right. Nice.
I can't do full dungeons, but I can definitely get the room the party is in onto the table. They've gone untouched because our weekly game night never quite stuck. We got through the first session of Dragon Heist. But that was the family. That's the family gaming, yeah. I was taking photos of my table of minis and posting. That works. That works. I will say one of the things I really like that has come along, and I recommend it to a ton of people, is Hero Forge. Is one of those just really great tools that I don't think meant to be the tool it became.
Right.
I think they probably make way more bank charging people a monthly fee for access to the save features and the coloring features and all the other fun things.
Right.
Whereas people really, I've never ordered a mini from them. I probably never will. And I've bought a couple of 3D print maps.
Right.
But they were like for experimental purposes. Like, hey, can you print this file? And be told, yeah, not really.
Yeah.
And go, okay.
We've bought miniatures from there. I even have Kronk in bronze.
Ooh.
So yeah, he's full metal. You know, that was a gift from my D&D gang over there at Indoor Adventures. Very cool. So
nice.
Yeah. That's I did that character up for your game Sunday. Yeah, on Hero Forge, and like, you know.
Well, that's one thing I tell people when we say we're going to play D&D. If it's someone who's not played before and they don't come with a, I'm going to play an Elven Rogue, or I'm going to play with a, with such and such. I say, here's a website. Go play on it, and when
Yeah.
you think you're done with your character, send me a picture of it, and then we will figure out what you want to do in the game.
Yeah.
And so that's actually how my daughter, at the age of 7, started playing. Her first character at 7 was a tiefling warlock.
Right.
Because that's what she made in Hero Forge.
Bloop, 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 puts the pieces parts together, and you go,
yeah,
we got
I'm like,
you.
well, she's definitely a spellcaster, and she's definitely a tiefling. And we take a look around at like, okay, well, let's see what she picked. Which magics did she pick? She didn't pick any books or anything, so I don't think she's a wizard. It was really a fun way of approaching it. And by the way, that is definitely an ex-boyfriend. I'm just going to put that on there. That you could have capitalized, like double caps the EX there, and accidentally. It sounds like someone was just jealous. Just saying.
That's really cool.
Okay, total tangent. If you have not played it, you are free to go. You are excused. Go download Unpacking. Come back in 5 hours. Make sure you had some Kleenex handy. Go check that game out. Come back here. I won't say much more other than miniatures and boyfriends. I'm just going to put those back. Yeah, they looked really cool. It
Nice.
was, wait. Yes, I have seen that. And I've shared that out there. And it was really, there's a lot of fun stuff with that website that you can use to ease people into gaming. I think when we think about the expectations, one of the things that I try to do is I'm just very upfront with players at the beginning. Like,
Right.
I will try to do voices and accents for major NPCs. I do a lot of theater of the mind. I hand draw a lot of maps. Most of my time comes in writing and planning the story arcs way more than it is designing interesting exploration maps.
Right.
Yeah. So I've been known to kind of do some funky stuff with like, oh look, I need a map, battle map, castle, dungeon, picture, minus Pinterest.
Yeah.
Ooh, there we go. That'll work.
Yeah. So I always talk about Owl Bear Rodeo. So good. I had, I picked out a bunch of stuff, and Dr. Gear, I think he's in chat. I said, I need these maps. And he went and he was able to like, throw a bunch of maps at me. And, so that's it. It's so prevalent now that there's tons of stuff out there to just grab a map if you need it. Now, again, sometimes you got to worry about copyright and all that. So there's it's different if you're streaming, but if you're just playing a home game or with your buds online, fair game.
Well, and even Hero Forge, at first I didn't want to get involved because I was afraid of what would happen. But Hero Forge does have a thing you're supposed to fill out if you're a streamer. I did, and they've never contacted me with anything. I think they just want to have a database somewhere so that if they ever get a subpoena or some kind of copyright thing, they can say, well, we did hear from them and they said blah. Or if they get,
the Hero Forge police show up,
well,
give me all your minis.
I am always a little bit nervous about the cease and desist orders that could appear at random times.
Right.
But those are the kinds of things that when you create content, you have to be mindful of. You have to watch out for.
Yeah.
I also think too that for me, having even watched this lots of other streamers, it can be very stressful to try a new accent on live, because it's like I've practiced. I think it sounds good. Can I get away with it?
Right.
All right, because it is becoming like a bit of an expectation. And it's streaming D&D is competitive.
Yeah.
There's only so many people willing to hang out, and there's a lot of ways to get them to the table.
Ton of product out there. What was the other divergent part of the Matt Mercer effect? We handled the like level of expectations. Was there another piece to it? I don't want to get at that crunch time and have missed out on some of it.
I feel like expectations the biggest thing. The other thing
okay.
that kind of goes with it, and we've talked chat and we have kind of kicked it right around, is that it's also helped normalize D&D.
Oh yeah.
I think usually when people talk about the Matt Mercer effect, they mean it in that negative high expectation. But there's the other side of Critical Role and its success.
Right.
Is it's I mean you've talked about it before too. How much were those tickets?
To watch Critical Role at Gen Con live, $237 a seat. Like I said, Rolling Stones tour ticket prices.
So just out of curiosity, Rolling Stone ticket prices. Just tickets can be found as low as 131 with an average ticket price of 373.
Oh, all right. Phew.
Okay, so not quite Rolling Stones level. I'm just going to put them up against the greatest musician of the 80s.
I see.
You can get tickets for Bon Jovi this summer. Milwaukee. Come on. Now I have to check availability. It's checking availability. It's still checking availability. How many tickets do I want? I want 3.
All right.
Okay. So, you said it was 270 for Critical
237.
237 for Critical Role.
A couple years ago.
237 for a ticket for Bon Jovi is going to put you in the not great seats. Main floor is holy cow. Main floor is $600.
Oh, again. Oh, is it hard?
Okay. My fandom is slightly validated by this. Yeah. So the average seat maybe, but that I feel strangely validated.
Yeah, Arwen, yes, indeed. It was Malik on Sunday who said, I'll DM like Matt Mercer when you play like Liam O'Brien.
Yeah, definitely a trick there. Oh, speaking of gamers. Hey, little bit. Do you need something real quick?
I'm hungry.
Go have a snack.
Like what?
Have some crackers. Don't eat too much. We have dinner later, okay?
Do we have onion dip?
We might. You should check the fridge.
'Cause
I want onion dip.
But yeah, it has normalized a lot of that talk. And I guess, to be fair, the effect of Critical Role is that it is something between Critical Role and Stranger Things. It is easier to pitch people on D&D than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I still remember now we all want onion dip. That's what she does well. I was working, I had just started at the Disney store, and I was talking about LARPing.
Yeah.
And I did a terrible job of explaining it because someone says, "Oh, so you're like the Michigan militia." And I'm like, no, we are the furthest thing from being like the Michigan militia. It's just
that made my head hurt.
Yeah, it was just definitely not a thing. And it is true that the Critical Role crew is professional, and that is part of their livelihood. And that is something else that kind of gets lost in a lot of that shuffle. Even a professional dungeon master.
Yeah.
So someone that you would pay to put on a game, or that gets paid by a bar or a brewery to put on games, or a game store, is still someone that is very unlikely to be a full-time.
Right.
And even with professional full-time artists, there's so much variation in quality that it can be really challenging to get over some of those expectations.
Right. Well, and what we've seen too is, out of the 6 years ago or so when 5th edition came out, we had so many people doing doing, how to and explanation videos and stuff because people wanted to play it. All of a sudden, all of those people, had 50,000 to 100,000 people watching them every week. And so they were like, well, I'd better start a game, And so, the Dungeon Dudes with the Dungeons of Drakenheim, WebDM plays, all those streamers all all those YouTubers all started streaming because, it's what you've taught us how, now show us how, it was there and viable. So I will say that's how I decide how in the beginning I decided which D&D books I was going to buy. I would watch someone play whatever the module was, if Secrets of Saltmarsh came out, I would go and look up groups and watch and see them play, not for spoilers, but to just kind of get a feel for what was going on with said adventures. So
I
don't know.
I'll admit I have done that for some of the Candlekeep adventures.
Mm-hmm.
I've pull up because they're all like short, almost one shots. Yeah. If I can catch people streaming it, I'll poke in just to listen to kind of like some of the choices they're making to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
One thing about this is an interesting point I hadn't thought of. I also want to talk about accents at some point today because that also came up as like how to combat the Matt Mercer effect is to be prepared with. But Air brings up an interesting point. One thing Matt Mercer did is made everyone want to be a DM. By the way, not play games. Look at how many people try to stream D&D and they run out of players, but not DMs.
Yeah, I guess you're right that people kind of felt like I've got a story to tell, I can do this, and for that, total props.
So when do we see you? When are you running your next game on stream?
It'll be over on, because I cannot. There's no way I could host and take care of chat and everything and DM at the same time. So I've only run 2 games. I ran a superhero game and I ran a Shadowrun game on my channel, running the tech stuff and DMing. But that was like 5 or 6 years ago. And so I only DM when someone else is handling the technology. So that's the next time you'll see me, is the next time someone wants me to DM, and they'll do all the button pushing.
All the other stuff.
Exactly.
Which
my brain just doesn't work that way.
I'm telling you, man, a Stream Deck is the best investment I made.
Yeah.
Freaking best investment. Definitely not. Well, and it's interesting because I think there are a lot of people that find different, especially in the stream community, different solutions to the problem of getting players to a table and feeling like it's going to work. And there's some problems are very unique to the stream environment. So things like camera issues or communication or the ability to consistent attendance. I mean, it's one thing if you drop a board game on the table because, so-and-so didn't show up to the weekly D&D game. It's another thing when you've got people that are expecting a broadcast to go out and it's like, we're short 2 important players tonight. We don't have a backup plan. And I've been really, really lucky on that front in that I found some amazing players. And it seems like following the Twitter of Indoor and Hype Goblin and others is that there are some really good groups out there and some really dedicated players that do show up week to week. But they also have their so-and-so's having, issues at home and they can't get on stream. So we're going to do this week instead. Yep. We'll see you guys next week with our regularly scheduled game.
Yeah.
And life absolutely does happen.
And you've got to account for that when you're when you're planning on a broadcast thing. I really thought it was kind of amazing. You're looking at your dragon heist and you're like, okay, I need some alternates here because life happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I said, Sunday you were like, hey, you want to play? And I'm like, tonight? And you were like, yeah. And I'm like, yes sir, I said I would. Let's do this.
Yep, you were on deck, so we called you in.
Yeah.
Which I will say, the best part about that situation is I had not actually read Dragon Heist all the way through up till then. I've been going chapter by chapter. And so scheduling out all the remaining episodes and who would be in them and what had to happen in each of them, so I had my clear vision for that 3-hour block of time,
right,
really gave me a good position to have to kind of think it through and be very careful about how that was going to go. Maybe even 1 player, 1 GM for fun. 1 and 2 is a good size. I find for a stream game, the sweet spot is 4 players, 1 GM.
Yep.
I can manage the Zoom. I can usually tell when someone's being talked over. I get a little nervous at 5. And then for Dragon Heist's finale, we're going to have everybody there.
Yeah.
Which that'll be the crazy night. But I'm not planning a lot.
Right.
Because it's the finale.
Well, and the thing too is particularly in a stream game, you've only got so much spotlight time. And I've found in streams when you hit that 5 player, you start having a lot less time in a 3-hour session to give everybody the spotlight for enough to keep them going, because you'll end up with 3 people go do one thing and 2 players are sitting there, and because it's 3 people, they each take 10 minutes. Oh my God, that's a half an hour. That's 1/6 of the thing, where you had 2 people just sitting on their butts. So for streaming, yes, definitely 4 and 1, is probably the primo, the sweet spot, as it were.
The only downside is when you lose a body, 3 is often you have to be really careful with combat encounters with 3 PCs, because it's not a lot of people all of a sudden. And that's why I'm actually pretty likely to cancel a game and say I'll just play Wasteland or something for the night, so that there's something on the channel. But I was very lucky in my Curse of Strahd group, was really good about being present. The Convergence has been freaking amazing about being present. And that's another group too, where it's everyone has stuff to do. I would feel terrible playing without any one person because of how story driven it's all in.
Right.
Like having Sam miss a week isn't just are we going to survive the combat encounters because our artificer wasn't there? But there are some major relationships built at that table right now.
Right.
Which Dragon Heist, for the most part, hasn't really gotten to that vibe, and that's okay. Because not every table has to have that deeply intense character map-ups. So, it is what it is. So beating the Matt Mercer effect. How do we either bring the expectations down or cheat our way towards the expectations? Because, being honest, I'm good. I know I'm good. But I'm good.
Yeah. The big thing is not to worry about it. If you get to the end of the night and people are sitting around talking, oh, that was so sweet or whatever, and nobody wants to go home and they want to come back next week, you're doing it right. The expectations have been met. If you have someone at your table who's like, your voice was weak, your map is lame, that's not someone you want to play with. I would be like,
tell a good story.
I'm sorry, you're fired as a player. How you do, even if I was another player, I'd be like, whoop, time, respect. Someone, they're trying, so work on your feedback, maybe If you're at a table and you're looking for that Critical Role experience and it's not happening, you might have the wrong group, you know. uh, and there's no big deal with that. Move along, or look for others, or
Yeah.
you know.
And I also think too, if you want to have epic Critical Role moments, and you're working with people that are amateur actors, then give them some more prep time. Like, if you really know that you're going to have a character who's going to make a major speech of some kind, maybe give a hint to the player before the session, a couple of days out, to say, hey, I don't want to tell you what's going to happen at the session this week, but there's a pretty good chance your character is going to face a life or death decision and have an opportunity to say something to the party if they choose the death option before they die.
Right.
You might want to just kick a few things around in your head, which A, lets them prepare, B, will freak them the F out, and they will be so pumped to come to the table.
Right. I have said before, particularly like in Monster Noir, because I don't want to give anything away, and that game has always been very improv heavy, but I will sometimes give hints or clues or something to prep about. Like, you're going to have a flashback tonight, so think up a flashback, and whatever they feed, then it's up to me to go, okay, how do I make this important to the story? And like I said, because that's an improv show, it's much easier to do. But yeah, you could say, hey, you're going to have to give a speech to the court this coming week. You know, get your head on that, because we're broadcasting this, and I don't want to blindside you with, now talk elegant, you know.
My character is planning this in this way, just so you know, and can plan for it. Yeah, not a bad idea. Things like that are good for especially if it's a bigger arc, to let everyone kind of start to kind of get their head around some mini rehearsals. I found in my week of crash coursing my Vistani accent, which I recognize, still sounds like old white guy from the Midwest trying to sound like he's from Eastern Europe. Fine. I did a lot of YouTube. I found a lot of YouTube videos both on accent and on I also dropped in on a crap ton of Eastern European Twitch streamers.
There you go. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time just hanging out, watching people play games I was marginally interested in, but they were from the right part of the world with the right accent I wanted to emulate.
Yeah.
And I made myself listen and start trying to replicate. There's a story, allegedly, that when Summer Glau was preparing to do a scene for Firefly, she sat down with the actor who played Badger, whose name escapes me, and they had coffee. And he just kept talking, and she just kept mimicking. And according to him, it took her less than 2 hours to perfectly match his accent.
Right.
Which is like props to Glau for her ability to like just grab something and go.
Right.
But it speaks to that need to say, like, that just it's a practice piece. The trick is to make sure you're exposing yourself to enough variation that you can start to bring some of that into the table.
Like I always say, my dwarven accent is not a horrible rendition of a Scottish accent. The Scots have a horrible rendition of my dwarven accent. See, so
I wish I had more American accents down, because I've always loved the idea of elves sounding like they're from Brooklyn.
Nice.
You're going to come in here and you're going to disrespect our tree and then expect us to give you magic? I don't think so. No. You're gonna say you're sorry to the tree.
Nice.
Why are dwarves Scottish? I don't know.
Somebody decided. That's just like every Roman in every movie ever speaks flawless British. You're
not wrong, because in Star Wars, that's also like the default Imperial accent.
Exactly.
is British. It's like that's how you know who the bad guys are. They have British accents.
Yeah.
That may have something to do with the fact that at one point the sun never set on the British Empire.
Well, and quick Star Wars fact: the actor who is the physical embodiment of Darth Vader is Scottish. so out there has to be an hour and a half of Darth Vader with a Scottish accent. Very, very
Oh yeah.
You have failed me for the last time. So
Elves are Irish, dwarves are Russian. Maybe Darth Vader's just three dwarves in a quote. It's possible. Absolutely, entirely possible.
Three dwarves. Perfect.
No, that's okay. That's
Love
okay.
you guys.
There's no Darth Kobold. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
I know many claim meta. I enjoy player-only chats for them to discuss some story elements, work out ideas that can be brought in a session. Yes. Yeah, it was really neat. This week at the Convergence, Molly, Barely Molly, who's one of our players, she's been with me for a while. And, okay, tangent from the tangent. I met Molly through D&D Beyond. Now, I've posted like 4 ads on D&D Beyond looking for players for the stream games. And I always say, please have some stream experience or some time on camera that I can look at as part of the casting process.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed at how many people will say, well, I've never been on a stream, but I would love to be in your game. And I'm like, what part of?
Right.
Anyway, and yes, D&D Beyond has a looking for group section. It's for looking for players, looking for GMs. It's one sub forum. It's in their forums.
Yeah.
There's like guidelines for posting. You can post paid games or non-paid games. But I posted, and she got a hold of me, and it was one of those, like, we had given up finding a 4th player.
Right.
We had totally given up. It was just going to be Enceladus, Tiffany, who was a personal friend, and Linarius, who is another streamer. It was just going to be the 3 of them. We're going to be my Candlekeep crew.
Right.
It worked for Charlie's Angels. It was going to work for us. And then Molly, like, messaged me a week before we were supposed to start. And, or not even a week, like 3 days, and said, can I still get in? And I went, geez, I don't know.
Right.
We're a little close here, but I guess, well, can you do this? Can you do this? And she's like, I can do this. I can do this. And we got her to the table, and she has been like the best player I've had.
Nice.
In many, I mean, granted, she's in very high company, but she's been an amazing addition to the tables, and she's just the brutally honest I need when I need brutally honest. Like, I've pitched some ideas to the groups, and I could tell there was like, well, we could maybe go there. And Molly's like, no, that makes me uncomfortable. Do not do that.
Right.
And I'm like, okay.
Sold.
Sweet. I needed that. Wow. Molly is great, but so is everyone else. They are great. I am blessed with great players. Now, the reason I bring up Molly in this situation, you and her made the stream cry? We did? We didn't make the stream cry. I know we probably did. We've had some great times. But she called at the Convergence last week. She called for a stop.
Yeah.
And she just said, wait a minute. As players, why are our characters doing this?
Right.
Like, what's going on here? What do we know? What are we trying to find out? What do we want? Where makes sense for our characters to go? And like kind of called for a big like table powwow. Put the minis away. Somebody get the pizza out. We just need to like rethink our entire goal for the game.
Go meta for a minute.
Yeah. And did a really great job of like leading that conversation.
Yeah. Dr. Gear had mentioned earlier he's the opposite of the hey, prep for this player. He's the person who's contacting me during the week and I want to do this, or can we say we did this, or when we have that break, can my character have type stuff. So you gotta love those players too, where you're like, you just gimme, and we'll work in what we can, and Yes, and yes, maybe. Yes, I'll try.
That would be cool. We should let that happen.
Mhm.
The rule of cool at its finest. And I thank you, Ear. I had forgotten about the conspiracy. And that was one, without totally spoiling the scene, but Molly and I did collude outside of the game, as DMs do. We wanted to create a situation where one of the players was put into slightly further backstory. The party was in a domain of dread, and the domain was tugging at all of their heartstrings and creating these really horrible emotional moments. And so I had wanted to set one of the PCs up for a really hard emotional decision.
Yeah.
Predominantly the decision to settle down somewhere. Because Mir had this like hyper morbid fear of settling down. And so Molly and I,
commitment settling down,
all
or
forms
just
of
like
settling down, like
okay.
getting into a committed relationship, being in the committed, having a lease on a house, being locked in somewhere. Ear, I appreciate you wanting to steer people at YouTube. I don't care. I'm going to talk about it anyway, because I won't spoil the whole thing.
All right. Okay.
But if you want to see it, it is on YouTube. It's in the Candlekeep Mystery section. But so that was Mir's biggest fear. So Molly and I colluded to create a situation where she would like suddenly feel drawn to that level of commitment through the storyline. And so we split the party because of the darkness, and then Molly shifted from playing her character to playing the shadow version of her character. Because we had planned what Shadow Ember was going to do.
Right.
And we didn't say a word to Jesse the entire time. And so Molly is role-playing as Ember.
Yeah.
Knowing that she's not really Ember. She's part of the thing. And it was just a brilliant scene. Molly was brilliant in it. Jesse it was amazing how she played it and what she did with it and the choices she made. And it was just all around an amazing experience for everybody. Let's see. I'm going to have to bump you to VIP sometime other than now, because you should have access to posting links. I think if I haven't learned it, if I can't trust you at this point on this channel, I never stinking will. And that's the kind of thing that, I should be able to do that. I can't find the link to just the playlist right now either. But I'll make sure it's there. We'll get you there. So that's how that works out there. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm looking at things, and right about now we have completely abandoned the Matt Mercer effect as far as topics go. So I'm thinking that's a good sign that we should probably head home. Like it's pretty much when we've driven the Matt Mercer, we've driven so far from the topic we don't remember why we got together. Like that's the time to call it a day. As it were. What have you got coming up that's got you excited?
Ooh, you see, so much of mine is offline nowadays. I went from like 5 streamed games a week, where I was on channel where I was getting paid to play, that sort of extremeness to now, I'm down to like 3 games and I'm offline.
That reminds me of something I have to lament.
Yeah,
keep going, but I'll lament when it's my turn.
So I'll have my hopefully Monster Noir is going to be starting up again over on Indoor Adventure soon. I will make an announcement here when we're good to go there. We're still trying to get the cast back together after we had a member who couldn't get who was doing finals, and the finals, like going to graduate from college kind of finals. So yeah, and so we haven't gotten that back together yet, but I've got my I got to give him a new name because Grognard right now is such a downer term on the internet and the Twitterverse. So my old school game is going to be on Saturday. Not streamed. A lot of fun. Love those guys. But you guys can find me playing with toys, swinging axes and bows and whatnot around on Wilder Myth Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10-ish, because it's Sunday morning. And that's the good place to find me right now. And then here every other Tuesday-ish. So that's it for me, but
Cool. Well, for me, I'm going to be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. We have our Convergence game. I'm a little bit nervous because I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen at it. And this is like the first time now we're at I don't know what to do for like 3 sessions.
right.
Like, I know what the next part of season 1 needs to have happen, but it's a few sessions down the road still, I think. So I have lots of choices for where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
I'm also a little bit nervous. Somebody was supposed to have a map made for me by last session, and I still haven't seen said map, and so I'm in a little bit of a rough spot. I will also admit that when you do intend to offer your players an honorarium, you should watch the calendar year. Because part of our Kickstarter for the Convergence was to provide that honorarium back to players. I've wrapped up all of my expenses finally. Like, I know how much everything costs to ship and everything's done.
Right.
And as far as I know, everyone who backed and did a backer survey, and I've given them 3 months to do backer surveys, I feel like I'm safe closing the door. I've shipped everything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I forgot to send the honorariums to the players before the calendar year ended.
Oh.
So I have to pay taxes on the Kickstarter.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
And that's on me. I screwed that up.
Yeah.
And I have a full-time job. So I'm paying taxes on that Kickstarter at my usual rate.
Right.
So I'm not going to get an honorarium out of it.
Right.
Because I didn't ship it out soon enough. So little things to think about. You might not consider that. I like the Grumpy Geezer group, the G3s.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I was thinking, because that's perfect, because when my phone is acting up, that's what I got at the top, 3G.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch. I don't know if I'm going to do a pub night this week, but I do intend to do my coffee mornings, Saturday and Sunday. The biggest compliment I got was in the Discord group. The Tuesday after school started up again, which is it's 2 days in a row, and I'm not having morning coffee with Lantern. What's going on? I'm like, I'm back at my day job.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't like it either.
Well, at least you see that retirement thing. I
know. I just got to get till June.
I've got, 16 years or something.
Although, to be fair, it's not a true retirement. I'm retiring from teaching and starting a new career.
Right.
That's the new plan. That's where we're going to go. All Access, thanks for coming by. As we wind down the podcast, I do want to do a little bit of end of stream housekeeping. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for the download. If you leave us a review on whatever platform you listen to us on, it will help other people find this D&D content. You are always welcome to join us at twitch.tv/Lantern Noir and join our very, as you heard, lively chat. I would also like to thank the members of the Inverse Genius Podcast Network for including us in their repertoire of podcasts, and to our sponsors at sweetsteam.com. If you go to sweetsteam.com and use the code STEAMNOIR, you get 5% off your purchase of amazing steampunk-themed chocolates. They have one that's shaped like an Hindenburg, and it's chocolate and cinnamon. So it's got a little spice to it, a little burning sensation. They also have chocolate, which is a dark chocolate with sea salt and caramel.
Right.
Because, the
and
salt.
Tentacles?
It has the elder god symbol on the chocolate itself.
Perfect.
And then our parting thought for our podcast partners, Graybeard.
Not everyone is Matt Mercer. You don't have to be Matt Mercer. Get out there, try, do the best you can. It's all anybody can ask. If you're having fun, they're having fun. You're doing it right.
That is absolutely the way to do it. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Okay, if you're here with us on Twitch, thanks for coming by. Thank you, Enceladsaurus, again for the raid. Thank you, everyone who added in follows. Arwen, thank you again for resubscribing for 6 months. We appreciate that. 6 months. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. Ear, thank you for cheering. Just thank you, everyone, for being part of this today. It was like total freak out to see and all of y'all coming in. And I hope y'all had a good time and you come back next week, because we have a lot of fun here week to week. And it's always fun to do it with people kicking ideas at us and talking and chatting and talking and chatting. I'm looking at my friends list for who's currently on. And I think what we're going to do, it looks like LB has moved from playing a game into having a bit of a just chatting stream. Oh. And I think I'd like to introduce you to her. She is an amazing content creator in her own rights. She hosts her own D&D streams. She hosts all kinds of RPG content. She plays an amazing variety of games. I get to mock her that I remember when she was a wee little something that came over to babysit our newborn. So little things I get to do, which I'm not going to pass up a chance. Nope, we're not. Did she really just push that button? She really did. She absolutely did. Like I hit it in there.
It's the wind up and
to say let's rate her, and she literally just put her my stream is over up on the screen. Wow. Wow. It's a good thing I spent all that energy building her up, because I would have felt terrible if we had gone in there as she was pushing I gotta go. Because that would be awkward. So check her out. In the meantime, we're gonna raid who we often raid at this time on Tuesdays, given some of our others, and that is, I consider, the Kevin Bacon of Twitch, the one and the only Kraken Inferno. Please follow this raid through. Have a good time with him. He is an amazing content creator, and I'm not joking. Like, he is the Kevin Bacon of Twitch. Everybody can get to Kraken in no more than 7 steps. Either he shouted them out, he knows them personally, or he's recommended that person's channel. Because everybody eventually goes back to, I mean, it's true. Even Indoor Adventures now is only 3 degrees separated from Kraken.
That's right.
Because we come in through Graybeard to here, and we go over there, and there we are at Kraken.
Oh, shoo.
Yeah, he's playing his way through Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and he's going to take you on a wild ride. Folks, we will see you soon. Whenever and wherever it is, please, please continue to stay safe. We'll see you then.